Hi there. I'm Skaji. I'm a practicing witch, a professional tarot nerd, and I'm glad you're here. This is intended to be a regular weekly thing, I hope, where I take a look at a single card from the tarot deck. This week we're going to take a look at the wheel. It's New Year's time. A lot of folks look at things like that. I set out to do a brief overview of a few cards from a few different decks from early cards on, and I sat down this morning to start working on that, and later, what time is it? Oh, geez, it's been 4 hours. So I don't think I'm going to go through everything that I did, otherwise this video will be much longer. But we are going to take a few looks at some different cards. What we see here is an example from a mid-15th century deck. That's in the mid-1400s. It's the Visconti-Sforza deck, also known as the Pierpot Morgan Benbo tarot. And it's a hand-painted card, but we can definitely see a wheel, and we've got these 4 characters around the outside and a character on the inside. The 4 characters, it's really hard to see here, but the 4 characters have little scrolls, and in those scrolls are Italian or Latin phrases, I'm not sure which. The one at the top says, "I reign." The one on the right says, "I reigned." And the one on the bottom says, "I have no reign." And the one on the left says, "I shall reign." So we have that full cycle of the ups and downs of fortune. And that's a common theme in a lot of the wheel cards. In the center we have an angelic figure. You can't really see the wings very well, but they're there, and the character is blindfolded. Some writers think that this is a representation of Fate herself. I'm not real sure about that, but the blindfold could indicate a sort of egalitarian sense. Life is equally fair and unfair, regardless. This is an image from the Marseille deck, and it's a 16th century style. There were lots of different ones in this similar style. And again, we have creatures. This wheel seems to be going counterclockwise. The previous one seems to be going clockwise. But here we have these animal-like figures on the left and the right, and a sort of sphinxy kind of thing with wings up at the top. And some authors on this indicate this as the ups and downs of sort of material life, whereas that character at the top with the sword, that's kind of a justice-y kind of thing, and again we have that fairness issue. But my question on this is, who turns the handle? Here we have an example from the 1789 Etteilla deck by Jean-Baptiste Alliette. He was the first person to kind of assign occult significance to the cards, and designed this deck and a couple of others. We again see this Fortuna character, this Lady of Fate, blindfolded again, like in the Visconti-Sforza, standing kind of upon the wheel, sort of, and maybe not completely blindfolded, so maybe life isn't always fair. But Etteilla was the first to really assign these occult principles. Earlier decks were certainly used for divination, but perhaps it was not codified. It didn't bring all of these other resources in. And this one is from the It's printed by Gumppenberg. It's the early 19th century, 1806-ish. We only see the one character, this animal figure, and this Zeus-like up at the top, but he's got this sort of cornucopia with all these gems and things falling out of it. So it hints at that illusion of I'm on top of the world, but I got holes in my pockets. And off on the left of the card, we can see the end of a handle. So who turns it? That's another mystery there. This one is from the 1889 Oswald Wirth deck. He designed his own deck. He didn't do anything with the minor arcanas. It was just majors only. And we start to see some more overt occult significance. Again, we have the Sphinx with the sword at the top, and a character going up, and a character coming down. And here we see some more detailed looks at a Hermanubis character on the way up, sort of the upside of life, and then a sort of devilish looking representation of Typhon, representing a sort of destructive side on the other side. And then we have the little boats and the snakes, and this is representing the intertwinings of energies. A lot of these cards have 8 spokes. Now that could be aesthetics, or it could simply be a representation of 8 points throughout the year, the wheel of the year. Probably not in the way that we use that term today. But again, on the Wirth deck, we see another handle, only nobody's turning it. So we don't know, that implies things get going. And Wirth actually speaks about that. He says that the handle is sort of, at the beginning of life, it's given a quick turn. And then as life goes on and as we age and get older, that wheel slows down until it comes to a stop. This is from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, first published in 1908. Designed by Arthur Edward Waite and painted by Pamela Coleman Smith. This is one of the most iconic decks out there. And we see a lot of symbolism here that comes both from the Rosicrucians and the Golden Dawn. There's some alchemy thrown in there. But again, we have that Hermanubis character on the right, and the snake representing Typhon on the left, and the Sphinx with the sword at the top. And these are very much Golden Dawn kind of symbols coming into it now. This is from the Thoth deck, developed by Aleister Crowley, painted by Lady Freida Harris. They worked on these cards between 1938 and 1943. Of course, Crowley's ideas on the tarot were developed earlier than that. He was involved with the Golden Dawn until he kind of got sideways with those folks and went out on his own. And again, we have sort of that wheel idea. Only he's got 10 spokes on his, and that sort of represents the 10 Sephirot. The Kabbalah was very much an important part of the works of the Golden Dawn. Was first assigned to the tarot by Eliphas Levi 100 years earlier or so. But this brings in a lot of that, and we can see the changes in the art, all right? Considering that they developed this deck in the 1938-1943 time frame. Here we have a Wheel of Fortune from 1991, the Robin Wood deck. I like this deck. And we still have that sort of chance aspect kind of thrown in with the roulette wheel, the little ball up at the top, and it's supposed to look like a roulette wheel. So life's full of chance, but we can also see the ups and downs represented by the lady there at the top. She's on top of the world, and at the bottom, not so much. But we also see that transition in between. This is a card from the Druidcraft Tarot from 2004. This has a character drawing a circle. That's both has magic circle aspects, and it also has circularity of time. In her hand, she's got a little pendant that represents the wheel of the year. And again, we have that circular aspect, but we're becoming a little more abstract, and it's definitely tied into the philosophy of the designers and authors, Philip and Stephanie Carr-Gomm. This is from the Wildwood Tarot. This one came out in 2011. And this is another one of the decks I like. I use this with clients. Now we get really into the passage of time. We see the seasons represented. We see the loom. We have that's that sort of weaving of fate kind of idea with the wheel of the year on it. So we have moving into a more passage of time and less about luck kind of look to these cards. And this is from 2012's Witches Tarot by Ellen Dugan. This also shows those seasonal passes, and it shows the 4 elements represented by the typical tools we would see: pentacles, swords, wands, and cups. That seasonal passage, and then we have those 8 spokes again. So we have that passage of time represented. And this is from the Urban Tarot from 2015. Now this one is a Thoth style, not a Rider-Waite-Smith. Most of these others are Rider-Waite-Smith style, of course, except for the Thoth. But in this one, it's very much got that urban kind of feel. We see the fortune teller's shop all closed up. We see the 3, we see those 3 masks, the comedy and tragedy and whatever the other one is, if there's another one. Usually you just see comedy and tragedy, but we have that sort of neutral thingy going on. And then the big Ferris wheel represents that wheel, but we have that Sphinx there represented. And that's sort of the mysteries of the universe. This is from the Starman Tarot from 2018. Now it was designed by David and Esther DeAngelis, but it was inspired by David Bowie. And that's David's face there in the middle. This one has really getting into sort of a more abstracted idea, but we do still have that wheel aspect, and authors are beginning to discuss patterns, not just periodicity and chance and things like that, but the idea of patterns which repeat, which perhaps we need to escape from. This is from the Heaven and Earth Tarot from 2020. Again, we have the ideas of Hermanubis and Typhon bringing in the stuff from the earlier Rider-Waite-Smith deck. We have those 4 characters in the corners represented, again with the Sphinx with the sword. We have, this deck uses some Kabbalah and some astrology a little more intensely, but again we have this wheel aspect showing order and chaos balanced. This is from the Hoodoo Tarot, also from 2020, and the Aunt Caroline figure. This deck uses characters from Hoodoo culture here in the U.S. as representations for the cards. And the story behind Aunt Caroline, as I read it in the book, is sort of a rags to riches story. This lady was born into slavery, ended up in, I think it was Arkansas, after being freed, began her life, but she was doing divination using playing cards, which is not an uncommon thing in the past here in the U.S. And other places. But at any rate, she folks would line up to come see her, all kinds of folks. And she was very industrious. In addition to providing the divinatory service, there were lines of people outside her house. She fed them. So she, she was selling them food. and she took the money that she earned and she bought some land, and so she really made a good life for herself. And that's that rags to riches story. That's if we may have a sense of destiny in our life, but maybe we can kind of control how we get there, approach to things. This is the Wheel of Fortune from the Pulp Tarot from 2022. I found this one at a local museum in their gift shop. It's a great deck. I like it. It's got sort of a, kitschy pulp kind of feel to it. But again, we have that wheel with those characters, so we still have that Rider-Waite-Smith and Oswald Wirth kind of approach to it. And this is from my 2022 Dungeons and Dragons tarot. It doesn't have that same kind of feel as far as the previous occult influences and things like that. We do have the wheel. We've got these symbols all over it. We've got characters at the top. That's not to say that this can't be used in a divinatory manner. With decks like this, for me, I like studying them because it helps me step outside of that, all of that stuff that I've got in my head from all of these other things, and it makes me think about the cards in different ways. The interpretations of these cards have evolved throughout time. Earlier writers really talked about them being very much the ups and downs of fate, fortune and misfortune. As time goes on, the concepts of the periodicity of time, the repetition of patterns, and more a look at a universe which is less predetermined, in which we have greater personal agency, and the concepts of evolution and change itself. Some writers, Eden Gray in the 70s, applied this to the law of karma, the idea of what goes around comes around. There's the idea of life as a millstone, in that we may get ground down, but it's a transformative process. And one writer assigned a meaning of command, and I think that that's more of the idea of personal agency within our own fate or destiny. I think that about sums it up for us, for the Wheel of Fortune. I hope you've enjoyed your time here. My name's Skaji. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Safe journeys. Getting dressed for this, and I don't need socks. Nobody's going to see my feet. And then the thought of not wearing socks in front of people, just apparently that's a thing for me. So Alliette, Jean-Baptiste, Alliette, Etteilla, Jean-Baptiste, Alliette, Etteilla deck, Jean-Baptiste, Alliette, Etteilla deck by Jean-Baptiste Alliette. They didn't. I wish the dogs would shut up. Interpretations of these cards have... I'm wearing socks. You may have noticed a oil lamp in my earlier videos. I was setting it up and I noticed it was smoking weird. I didn't want to end up with a big conflagration in my small office here. So this is my little friendly LED blinky oil lamp thingy. I'm wearing socks,